Hi, welcome to another video. I haven't uploaded in a while because I finished my first year of medical school, and honestly you guys, I needed a break, like from everything. I just needed to kind of cleanse and get my first year done with and like to process this entire year. It's like wild to me because it's like the middle of July and school's about to start in like a short few weeks, which is like just so mind-blowing to me because I feel like summer just started. So that's how much of a break I needed. But I'm back. I'm actually going to be uploading a lot more frequently on here because I feel so much more rejuvenated and motivated and just like able to devote more time and attention to YouTube. So I'm back. Also gave myself some time to kind of reflect on the past year and realize the things that went well, the things that maybe didn't go quite so well. And I basically tried to think of all the ways that my experiences and everything that I've learned can be put together in a way that creates value for any of you that are watching my videos. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this video where I kind of talk through what are my actual thoughts of medical school and my first year of medical school especially. And I have a lot to say, so let's get right into it. So the first thing that I have to say, and this might be a little bit controversial, but basically I felt like you could treat med school like a 9-to-5 job. Now, the reason I say it's controversial is because you get like a whole bunch of commentary and voices around you saying that you have to treat med school like grinding 12 hours a day, every single day, and I just don't know how anyone would survive doing that. Like, that just sounds like way too much, especially when it comes to studying, like not even like working, it's like studying. That's just wild to me. So clearly I didn't do that, and I am standing and I did just fine. So my big thing is that you can definitely treat med school like a 9-to-5 job, barring some exceptions. You know, like during exam weeks, that's definitely not necessarily true. You know, you do have to put in a lot more hours right around exam time. So I would say maybe like around 2 weeks where you have to go pretty hard and you're studying maybe 10 hours a day. For the most part, outside of that, like normal time, not close to exams, you can put in your 8 hours and be completely fine. Wake up at 7 and get to my lectures by 9, and then study and get everything done that I need to get done by like 5, 6 maybe on that day, and then just call it a day because I was basically useless like after that 9 to 5, 9 to 6 period of time most days. Definitely you can treat med school like a 9-to-5 job most weeks, and then obviously there are some exceptions to those weeks, like during exam time or when you have labs or anything like that, and that can just be like any other job too, where you have like a highly stressful job or one of those high paying jobs, you have to work extra hours like during peak times or something like that. So I feel like for the most part med school isn't this like crazy beast that like is eating up everything in its path. It can definitely seem like that, and I feel like the way you think about it also changes a lot on how you view something, especially like med school. You can take on a lot of the stress and you can keep yourself very involved and engaged in that kind of feeling where you feel like you have to do a lot more and you feel like you have a lot more stress and all of that. This is very dependent on the school that you go to as well. But thankfully the school that I'm at, I felt like most weeks I could treat it as an 8-hour, 9-hour job a day and be done and be totally fine. All right, so number 2, med school I realized is, yes, you're studying really hard. Absolutely. There's no shortcut to working hard, to putting in the grind, to getting like your reps in and all of that. But I've also realized that it's not necessarily about who studies the hardest, but also who studies the smartest. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I realized that it's not like you need to know every single detail of every disease out there or every disorder or every organ system. Like, that's not really what is expected of you. And really, like when you go out in a clinical setting and in a hospital and a patient comes to you, it's not like you can help them better if you know exactly what ions are going in and out of a cell in one cell in their heart. Like, yes, that is good background information to have, But I think what's more important is studying smart in medical school. So what they want you to be able to do is to be able to understand how different diseases are different from one another. If a patient presents themselves, how would someone who has X disease look different from someone who has Y disease? What lab orders would you order to like differentiate between the two? What would like the pathology look like if you got a specimen or like a biopsy out of those two individuals, or those two different disease processes? What kind of drugs would you give to one versus the other? And what wouldn't you give to, say, someone like a pregnant woman or like a child or like an elderly person or someone who has comorbidity? So it's more about kind of understanding things from like a clinical aspect rather than really like rote memorizing every single thing that's in your path, because that can really, really bring you down. And I'm not saying that what I'm talking about right now is easy in any way. You are bringing together, you are synthesizing a lot of information, and it takes a lot of work. But I think that's a smarter way to study, and I think it will take you further than kind of sitting down and just spending 12 hours a day trying to memorize every single thing in your path, because I just don't know how useful that is to you or to a patient that you're going to be helping out in the future. All right, my next thing is that there is a way to have balance in medical school. And my biggest thing actually about going into med school was that I wanted to have some sort of balance in my life, like to be able to do the things that really, really mattered to me, like working out or eating well. And there are definitely weeks where I can't do it all and I don't get my workouts in and I'm not eating the best that I can, or I have like family in the area who's like dropping off food for me because I can't cook for myself because I just don't have the time. And that's totally normal, and that definitely happens. But for the most part, you can absolutely make time for the things that matter to you. And you should, because otherwise, I just don't know how good of a life you're going to have without having some sort of balance in your life, without having something outside of medicine that kind of helps you to ground yourself in something other than just your work. But what people don't tell you about having balance is that the only way you can achieve a level of balance is if you are kind of on top of your shit from day one. You know, like you can't procrastinate and have balance at the same time, because it just doesn't work that way. You know, you only have a given number of hours in your day, and so if you're not utilizing them the way that work for you, then you kind of like backlog a number of hours and you just have to put in to get where you need to be in med school. Honestly, like I think the biggest way to have balance in your life is to plan ahead and to always be on top of your game. Every single day, you don't have to be putting in 12 hours, but you need to be doing something or the other that helps you move the needle forward. And be honest with yourself about what is actually helping you and what just seems like it's helping you. So that might be like non-sexy thing about balance that I feel like no one really talks about, but you really do have to be on top of your shit. And that brings me to my next point, which is that you can't really procrastinate in medical school. And that's one thing that I feel like I learned pretty early on. And I'm not really like a procrastinator, really, like apart from like the human tendency to procrastinate. Like I'm not like an extreme procrastinator, but I think I just realized that you can't, you know, like, okay, say even if you could, right? Like even if you could wait until a week before exams to really start studying, why would you want to? Like, how is that helping you? Like it might help you pass your exams, but in order to really learn this material well, to one day be able to apply it and help somebody, you really want to kind of be studying every single day. Like you don't want to be that person who only knows things for the exam and then kind of bottoms out and has no idea what's happening outside of that. And then my last thing that I think I realized, and this was really, really tough for me to realize, and it's a little bit more personal, but what I realized is that med school makes you very conscious of where and how you spend your time and attention. And I think as humans, we do that unconsciously to some extent, but I think because you have such limited time, it almost makes you be a lot more logical or analytical about how you're spending your time, who you're spending your time with, and be almost like more choosy about where your time goes, just because there's so little of it. But I almost think that's a good thing, because I feel like for a lot of my life, I would just spend time with people for the sake of spending time with people, or I would do things just for the sake of like doing them. And I think it's a good thing because it makes you become almost intentional with where and how you spend your time. And again, like not everything in your life needs to be planned and thought about, and there's always room for spontaneity, and there's a lot to say about being spontaneous. What I've realized is personally for me, I like knowing that there's intention behind the relationships that I'm building and even the relationships that I might be ending or letting go of or changing. I know a lot of my friendships actually changed quite a bit going into medical school because I think I learned that I couldn't give them the time and attention that they needed. It was sad, absolutely, but I realized that I was okay with it because I was able to then give the time that I did have to the things that are a lot more important to me. So basically what I'm trying to say is that you will have to let go of a lot of things, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, it's kind of how you look at it. But one thing is for certain, that you will become a lot more intentional with your time if you kind of choose to think about it that way. And I, for one, have really grown to appreciate that in my life. Alright, so that was my video. I kind of just wanted to come here and talk about all the things that I've been thinking about for the past few weeks as I reflected on my first year of medical school. I can't believe I'm already saying this, but I'm a rising M2 now, and I start my second year of medical school in just a few short weeks, which is wild to me. But I have tons of more video ideas, things I want to film. I want to do one video about how I studied in medical school because I think that would be really helpful. It changed a lot for me, but I think I found a groove that really works for me. I also want to do another video kind of on what I'm doing in the summer and research opportunities and finding research opportunities, and a lot of things like that. So if you have any recommendations for videos that you want to see or topics you want me to cover, definitely let me know. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.